Everybody, we are back with Watercolor Wednesday. Playing around in this Learn to Watercolor book, Lacey Walker of Rebel Unicorn Crafts. Not at all affiliated with her or connected to her, just found this book and wanted to play with watercolors. And it looked pretty easy for a beginner like me, so there you have it. This lesson, so let's see here, this was our last week's. Not too shabby, not too shabby, not too shabby. I won't complain, you know. So the lesson this time is Sweet as Honey. Okay, size 3 quill brush or size 12 round brush. I think we determined that I don't have a size 12 round. Let me give the watercolors a little bath, get them started. And size 12 round, I think we decided that we have, that's a 9, and that's an 11. And I think that's a 10. And that's a 9 or a 6. I don't know. So I think, which one is this one? This one is not labeled, but he looks to be about that size. So I think we'll go with 11, even though it says 12. This is what we've got. Color palette. Burnt sienna. Let's see what our color card is. Burnt sienna. Permanent yellow deep. Quin magenta. Vermilion. And yellow ochre. Okay, so all the reds and yellows. Okay, doesn't look like we've got to mix colors this time around, so that's kind of good. Okay, so maybe we won't need this, so we'll set that aside for a minute. Or am I in frame? Yep, okay. So, this says it's one of her favorite paintings because it's so low pressure. Even if you're not happy with the 1 or 2 of the hexagons in this honeycomb, once it's completed, it all comes together. The reason I love it is because it's segmented, which encourages us to play with different variables. For this exercise, we're going to focus on exploring the different stages of wet on wet. Through each stage, this painting will change a lot. I will show you what it looks like when all the colors have been added, but it's still wet, and then when the colors are completely dry. Remember, watercolor gets lighter in color as it dries. Okay. So step 1, I'm not going to be able to get all this in here. Step 1, tape down your paper. Got it. We're going to be adding a lot of water to this one, so it will buckle less if you do this step. Okay. Pick any of the hexagons and fill it up with so much water that if you picked it up and tilted it, you'd be worried about the water running everywhere. This is the flood stage. Ooh. Okay. I'm tempted to go with one of these small ones, but I don't think that's what she wants us to do. So we'll just start in the middle and give it so much water. I assume she wants me to just go to the line here. So much water. If you picked it up and tilted it, you'd be worried about the water running everywhere. Okay. That's a lot of water. And I will just say, she keeps wanting me to work in big brushes, but I'm a little nervous that this brush is too big. Okay, that's pretty flooded. We'll add a little bit more just because. Okay, I think if we tilted it, we would make a mess. Okay, and this is the flood stage. Place any of the colors you desire in the cell. In some areas, I brushed them over, and on other areas, I dotted them. Don't overthink this one. It's so wet, the colors are going to move unpredictably and may have surprising effects once dry, so don't try to control it. Okay. I don't know if y'all can see it or not, but there's a, when there's a lot of water on it, it's real smooth, but when it starts to dry, it gets more paper. Okay, so let's go with our burnt sienna. That's this color. Well, she said any of the colors, but she didn't say. I think she just wants me doing one color in that. I think so. Step 2, pre-wet your next cell to the gloss stage and drop the colors in the cell wherever your heart desires. I recommend using 3 different colors at this point. Okay. So we're going to go down here and wet this cell so we're not too close. I don't know what the gloss stage is. Let's see if there's anything about that in here. Oh, here we go. Gloss stage is a reflection is shiny and smooth, but the water doesn't flow as freely across the page. Okay. Shiny and smooth. That's shiny and smooth. Oh, and what did she say? You recommend using at least 3 different colors at this point. The colors will move a lot, but they're going to stay in the general area you place them, unlike the flood stage. Okay. This is the permanent yellow deep. And we'll use a little bit of that burnt sienna. And then this is the yellow ochre. Okay. Uh-oh. We're running over our line here, and I don't think we're supposed to. Okay. Okay. Step 3, pre-wet the 3rd cell to the satin stage. Let's see what the satin stage says. Still has quite a bit of shine, but it's lessened by the texture of the paper. A little damp, but tennis shoes would probably be just fine. Okay, so satin is a little damper, or more damp, or less damp, or where are we going with this one? We'll go here with this one. And I don't think it makes much difference that I'm using dirty water per se. There's a little shine. You can see the texture of the paper. Okay. Drop 3 or 4 of the colors in the cell wherever your heart desires. There will be a lovely softness to how the colors flow together. This stage is where things start to get more predictable with how the colors are going to dry. Okay. Quin magenta is 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna do a little bit of this. Well, it does do a soft flow, that's for sure. And this is our permanent yellow deep. Kind of mixing it so we don't have like a red. And this is our yellow ochre. I think I got too much water going on this one, but we're gonna work with it. Okay, oh, I dirtied my clean water, okay. Step 4, pre-wet the 4th cell to the damp stage. This means there should only be a slight light reflection from the water. On this one, drop the colors in as you desire, but play around with dropping some defined drops on the paper. To do this, you will make sure there isn't too much water on your brush, so fill it up with your desired color, then tap it lightly on the paper towel to remove most, but not all, the moisture. Since this is the most predictable stage of wetness, colors should stay where you put them, but they will have softness along the edges. Okay, this is the damp stage, so we're going to go up here. And dry my brush off a little bit, but one, two. This is our permanent yellow deep. And a little bit of burnt sienna. Woof! That is dark. Okay, she don't want a lot of water on here, so calm yourself, Shell. My paper's already dried, but I guess that's the dampness of it. Oof! Careful now, middle. My middle honeycomb is trying to get all crazy. Okay. Yeah. Step 5. In the 5th cell, we'll explore the dry stage. Keep the paper dry and start adding brush strokes to it. Notice how the edges stay sharp, the strokes stay defined. Also notice that in this stage, you can preserve white spaces for highlights. This is one of the great parts of painting wet on dry. Okay. So we're just going to dive right into number 3 is I say number 3, it's our permanent yellow deep. What did she say? Start adding brush strokes to it. She didn't say paint it in. She said add brush strokes to it. Do as you're told, Shell. I don't like those little... Okay, I don't particularly like that, but okay. So let's see here. I wonder if she meant for this to be dried by now, because it says at this point you can choose your own adventure and continue to explore flood, gloss, satin, damp, and dry stages. Continue filling the remaining cells using a variety of the stages, or choose your favorite one. I encourage you to play here and not overthink it. The more you experiment in this stage, the more you'll understand how your supplies work later in the exercises. Okay. I kind of like these two down. Okay, sorry about that. I got a phone call, which allowed that to dry a little bit, so that's kind of cool. We're still a little wet in our flooded area. So, we are on step 6 about choose your own adventures, basically what she said. And I was saying that I liked these two, which were the step 2, which was the gloss stage and the satin stage. And I don't know that there was a huge difference in those. Glossy is a little more wet, but basically I like just having the paper a little wet, not flooded. I'm too nervous about the flooded stage. That's too much water floating around for me. So this one is going to be probably considered the gloss stage. There's quite a bit of water there. And that phone call, like I said, took a minute or two. Let me get my... The water certainly moves around on these. Actually, I'll just soak up some of that. I do know that I don't particularly care for this one up here with the dry one, basically. Let's see her finished picture. Yeah, you can see it on the finished picture, and I don't particularly care for it. I don't know. Just don't particularly care for it. This one's more... Let me pull some of this water off, and then we'll go more as the... what is this considered? Satin stage. I think that's the one I like the most, where the paper's wet, but there's not any blobs of water anywhere. but it's wet, so it allows it to move. There's a glare. So the wet on dry was just kind of the plunking it down. That's what we're doing here. That burnt sienna is all up in everybody's business on that one. Yeah, I don't like the wet to dry. That's what that one was. It's too, like the color doesn't move. So this one's kind of, I'm going to say this is more along the glossy because there's quite a bit of water piled up there. I don't think that was the right color. Let's see here. I like this Quinn in here. It's pretty bold though. I feel like I have to tone it down. I'm mostly using the permanent yellow deep because it to me looks the most like honey. It's not a bright yellow. The burnt sienna, that brown, just, whew, it's pretty bold. So what other colors were we using? This is the yellow ochre. Oh, I keep forgetting to wet my circle. This one again looks to be more like the gloss. I'm going to let it sit for a minute and let it dry out a little bit, if that makes any sort of sense. And see if it'll dry down to the satin, if that makes any sense. This one is going to be satin because it's pretty wet, or it might even actually be the damp. Yeah, I would say this is damp because there's not a lot of water on that, but the paper's wet. Which one is this? 7 top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The color moves on this, but not... It moves when you touch it and you make it move, if that makes any sense. This center one, the very first one, still wet. Still nice and wet. Okay, I need to go back down here. So now we're at the damp stage down here, because this one's, it's wet, but not, it's not really glossy or shiny or anything like that. So again, our paint's moving. But really only when only when we move it. Okay, where do we want to go next? Let's go right down here. Let's flood this guy since he'll be small. He is pretty flooded. And we'll just flood it with that one color. Well, we might tap a little bit. It's pretty flooded. Whew. Moving right along. I'm nervous to work around this center one because he's still pretty flooded, so let's flood this one down here. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm counting my little squares because my watercolors aren't labeled. Woo. That's nice and flooded for sure. Okay. Let's do these two little triangles here damp. It's just a little bit of water on them. And I went off the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I keep forgetting which color, which color block I'm using. Pull some of this water off because it went from damp to being flooded real quick. Okay, moving right along. I'm just adding some water to this to kind of smooth out I don't like the white shining through. I don't mind the dots, but I don't like the white shining through. I know that's technically not how we're supposed to do it, but so we're doing wet on dry with this one as well. I just think that's too strong. Okay, let's see how wet we'll get this one. Right now we got quite a pool. So this one's probably going to be satin. Yep. Because there's quite a pool going on, but it's not flooded. And it's not gloss, so let's see here. You know, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to play with this flooded one in the middle. Because all the other ones have a couple of different colors except for that one, and it just has so I think I want to add some yellow. Move this paint around a little bit. Certainly don't need to add any more water to it. It's buckling, as you can see. But again, it's got quite a bit of water on it, so. Let's do something. Let's do a little wet on dry here. And let's do a little wet on dry here as well. Well, it would help if I had paint on my brush. awfully dark. But it's because I'm using a lot of that burnt sienna, I think. Let's just get this little corner damp. Well, he's a little bit more than damp, actually. He's got quite a pool on him. Trying to get all my little edge pieces going on out of the way. This one is damp. Not a lot of water on it, but okay, we got 3 or 4 more to go. They're all touching that big wet one. This one's going to be damp as well. Barely. Yeah, it's barely damp. Which will be fine. We'll just see how that plays. Ah, it's touching. It's bleeding. Oh well. That one went from damp to nice and wet. It's got a little bit of water going on it. Not flooded, but somewhere between satin and gloss. See, that's going to be a dark little honeycomb. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that. I do feel like I do better with them, with it being just kind of damp. When there's too much water in the little hexagon thing, I tend to get really dark with it. And I really do like just the lighter yellows. If we're speaking of honeycomb. Okay, one more. We'll get it kind of damp as well. Yeah, I'm okay with the wet on dry or wet on wet. I don't like it really wet though. When it's really wet, it gets it's harder to control. I think that's obvious though. Okay, is there anywhere that I feel like I need to touch up? Anywhere that's not really to the edge. So I think there we have it. I will let this dry. Maybe one of these days that big flooded blob will dry. I'm being a little picky perfectionist right now. Still don't like that one that we dabbled. But it's there. I did what the instruction. Ooh, you see that moving around? Yeah, well, let's just sit you down for a moment. Okay, I think that was it. Yep, that's it for Sweet as Honey. Thanks for joining me, and I like it. I'm okay with it. I don't really know that it looks like honey, but you know, whatever works. Thanks for joining me. Again, we're playing in the Learn to Watercolor book by Lacey Walker, Rebel Unicorn Crafts. Again, not associated with her or affiliated with her, just found this and wanted to play, and so there you have it. Thanks for joining me, and we will see you guys next Wednesday. Oh, I was going to look and see what the next one is. Some mountains as well, so let's see what the actual thing is. Marvelous Mountains. That's the next week's. So we'll see what's all that about. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next week. Bye for now.